I feel like we should have some music playing or something.
I know. There should be a theme song. Got to work on that. Hello and welcome, everyone, to Movers and Makers, Episode 3, Movers and Makers Virtual Chat Series, I should say. Episode 3, brought to you by Low-Key Arts here in the town of Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, and made possible with the support of the Gail Pratt Fraser Trust. I am your host, Sonny Kay, Executive Director of Low-Key Arts. It gives me great pleasure to welcome guests to the show. Robin Laananen is a tour manager and photographer based in Los Angeles, California, though speaking to us live tonight from Trimmington, Utah. Currently en route back to California, I think. Mm-hmm. Robin, I'm very excited to have you here on the show. Welcome to Movers and Makers.
Well, thank you for having me, Sonny. It's good to see you. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. It's been, quite a few minutes. It's, I don't know how long, but it's great to see you once again. And I sort of feel like I keep up with you. I don't know if vicariously is the right word, but you have a very active social media presence and your photos are constantly coming fast and furious and you're doing amazing things all the time. So I feel like in a way I haven't lost touch. But great to have you here. Thank you. And been looking forward to talking shop with you a little bit and learning some things about you I don't know. Mm-hmm. And, investigating your work a little bit and kind of just catching up with Robin and talking some career stuff and whatever else comes along. So tell us why you're in Trimmington.
Well, I was visiting my mom in Montana.
Okay.
I took this opportunity of not being able to go anywhere, to go to Montana. It's beautiful there. And now I have responsibilities back in Los Angeles, so I'm heading back down.
You've been up there for a few weeks, I think, right?
Yes. And I left right before they're going to get pounded with snow.
Oh.
And I don't have a vehicle that could get through that, so
okay.
I left.
Well, I don't have too rigid of a format for us to follow tonight, but I thought we could kind of take a linear stroll through your career, I guess, if you want to.
We could call it that. I think the last time we saw each other, wasn't it that rainy show in Texas with the Locust?
Yeah, so that would have been just a little over a year ago, right? That was Halloween last year.
The outdoor show that was raining.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I'd actually forgotten that one. Even though that's the more recent one, I should have remembered it.
Right.
The time before that was when a monsoon blew in at this odd festival out in the desert north of Las Vegas somewhere. Do you remember that?
Because I was probably with Refused at the time, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were with Refused, and right. It was unlike any other thing I've been part of. I mean, I just rode out there with a friend and a band. I was only there for like 2 hours, and as soon as we got there, it was like the whole thing the whole event shut down because the weather, because there was a storm warning, right?
Oh, right. No, that was Punk Rock Bowling.
Oh, was it one of those shows?
Yeah, and Murder City Devils were playing before Refused, and they had to leave the stage because of the storm. But
this was way out in the middle of nowhere. This wasn't a public Vegas. This was like I don't know. I'll do some. And
they all start feeling like the same thing.
I get that for sure. So Robin, let's talk about how you which came first, I guess. Photography came first before tour managing. I do know that. Let's talk about your photo life. Are you a formally trained photographer?
I dropped out of college and then moved to Seattle from Arizona.
Okay.
And basically just started knocking on doors.
Okay.
And then I started shooting for this publication called The Rocket. And then started shooting for Sub Pop. Okay. I still remember the first band I photographed for Sub Pop Records was the Helicopters.
Yeah. In Seattle?
Yes. I lived in Seattle from 1999 to 2006.
Okay.
And then basically just, it's such a small town there that you start shooting bands and then you're just always working. And then Sub Pop, very grateful for them because they started just sending all the magazines my way. So yeah, I was just shooting full time with record labels and magazines.
What got you into photography in the first place? Were you a kid or was you a teenager?
Yeah, I was a kid. I had a film camera.
Okay.
And I just started photographing basement shows. And the adrenaline was just addictive. Like you had to be right up front. And you never know what you got. You just had to keep shooting with the flash and just sweat and loud. And I just really took to that.
I'm sorry, basement shows in
Phoenix.
Phoenix, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Nile Theater had a basement where there were some shows.
Oh, wow, I totally forgot that venue.
Yeah.
Well done.
There's a lot of old holes up here. Yeah, so okay, so you got into shooting photos from going to shows. That was had had photo been on your horizon before that?
Aside from like the the artsy fartsy black and white photos of the cemetery and stuff, no, like nothing.
Okay.
I don't know. I think I might have just happened to have my camera with me when I was at a show, and my dad gave me my first camera. It was a Minolta, and just started shooting, and then I just couldn't get enough of it. And then my father's a professor, so it was kind of you should give college a shot. So I went to college and ASU and majored in photojournalism and minored in sociology. And up to that point, I had straight A's. Like I was such a geek. I loved school and learning. And then as soon as I went to university, I was cutting class. I just hated it. So I lasted 2 years and then had to drop out. And then my brother was living in Seattle.
What did you hate about it?
I'd been the whole thing about being in school your whole life. That's all I knew. And all I knew growing up is that I was going to go to college. And
so
then
you wanted some freedom.
You what?
You wanted some freedom. Maybe more than you hated school. You wanted to just
figure it out.
Yeah, sure.
And oddly enough, to major in photojournalism, the only class that if you take, you don't get any credit was photography. So
the irony, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just kind of dropped out and then moved to Seattle. To be closer to my brother.
Because your brother was there? Is that what you said? Okay. Was he involved in music?
No, but he's 2 years older, and growing up, he was always the one that was showing me new bands, and he took me to see Nirvana back when I thought it was Bleach.
You thought the band was called Bleach?
Yes, that's how long ago it was. He just introduced me to all the music I was listening to, and so what was great about living in Seattle was I was able to. We changed positions almost, where I started exposing him to music, and then I took him to be my assistant for photo shoots of bands that he loved, like Mudhoney. We went to Mark Arm's house.
Wow, it must have been amazing for him. That must have been incredible.
Yeah, he didn't know what being an assistant, what that meant, but he showed up at the door, and I kind of just told him what to do, and then after the shoot, Mark looked at us and said, well, I guess they practice in his basement. And they said since the whole band was there, they were just going to rehearse. And did we want to watch for a little bit? And I looked at my brother. I was like, do you have anywhere you need to go? And he's just... So.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
What's Mark Arm's house like?
It was nice. It was, the very Washington house, the stone stairs going up and, wood everywhere, exposed wood. And I do remember his wife, she was a portrait photographer for animals.
Oh,
so she had all these classy black and white photos of people's dogs.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's remarkable. I never would have expected that.
Nope. And then Jesus and Mary Chain, I took them to, I had to photograph them for a magazine that was after their sound check.
They were on Sub Pop at the end of their original career.
I believe so, yeah.
Wow, how was that?
He was able to watch their sound check, and he was just, so it was nice to be able to repay that, to him.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you were in Seattle for how long?
About 7 years.
Okay. And then eventually made your way down to LA, like so many people.
I know. Well,
seem to do.
It's you feel kind of weird to say that things got too easy. I didn't feel challenged, so I kind of wrote to friends that lived in LA and friends that lived in New York, and kind of just to see which one came up first. Like, hey, do you know someone that's renting a room? And this photographer in LA let me know that there was a room in this house available in LA, so that's why I moved down there. And I remember I had to buy a car because I didn't have one to get my stuff down there, and I remember being really sick, 101 temperature or something, and driving from Seattle to LA by myself.
Oh, God.
I was there for 2 days, moving into a house of people I didn't know, and then I had to fly to South by Southwest.
Oh, wow.
Shoot for 3 days. But
gosh, trial by fire, I guess. That would have been 2000. What's about 6 or 5 or 6?
6.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And then you've basically been there ever since. Although at that point, was it once you lived in LA that the tour managing began? Yeah,
basically, I had been touring with bands when I lived in Seattle. Because when you photograph musicians, you hear about tour.
Maybe we should show a little bit of your work as we're talking too. I realize I've got a bunch of stuff loaded up that I haven't yet done anything with. So I don't know what kind of chronology there is to these. So I might just sort of, I don't know, start. I guess. Well, should I start with sort of where I know you from? The kind of, I guess we're on each other's radar from you working with the Locust and the Mars Volta.
Yeah, sure.
So why don't we start with this?
Yeah, so basically that's great that you put them up there, because I had toured with bands like Blood Brothers and These Arms Are Snakes as selling merch just so I could go on tour. And then after moving to LA, I had met the Locust in 2004 on a tour with Dillinger Escape Plan and Your Enemy's Friends. And then after I moved down to LA, they reached out and said, hey, we just let go our tour manager. Do you want to tour manage us? And I asked them, I was like, do I get to go to Japan? And they said, yeah, after the year it's done. So they were my first tour managing job.
Okay, wow.
And actually I still have that's the uniform I have at home. They had me suited up as well, because they figured if I was going to be on stage taking pictures and whatnot, that I should have a Locust uniform. So wow. I have one. Yeah.
Incredible. I think you're the only non-band member who has one of those, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not true. I am the only woman. However, their sound engineer, Mike Hassan.
Oh, right. Mike, of course, has one. Yeah.
The joke was kind of like, I said, I'll wear one if Mike wears one. or vice versa. And the joke was on him, because I was like, okay, I'll wear one. And his has a little cape.
Oh, wow.
It's
a shame we don't have a photo of you and yours.
Yeah. I think I have one floating around, but it's hard to find. But I still have it. I'll still always have it.
Before we move on from the Locust, I do want to show this one, because it's just a classic.
Oh yeah. Actually, that's Mike Hassan. Gabe is doing his hair.
Yeah.
Basically, what we did is I wanted to photograph the guys in their uniforms doing normal everyday things. So they would suit up and like go to the grocery store, or like this, do someone's hair.
I love the phone and the band of detail.
Pre cell phone pockets, yeah.
We've got so much, such a rich collection of your work here to dig through. I'm conflicted as to where to go next here. But we've already mentioned these guys, so I'll throw this on. This is a wonderful photo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was at the Henry Rollins show.
This is the Mars Volta, Cedric.
Yes, and it was great, because I guess there was another photographer there, and Omar's like, no, we have Robin here.
Wow, great.
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience at the Henry Rollins show.
Of course.
Yeah.
Chairman of.
They had me actually shortly after I moved to Los Angeles. Omar called me and said, I heard you moved to Los Angeles. Can you do our press shot? So that was when they both lived in Long Beach.
Okay.
I went down to their studio and took these photos.
Let's see here.
I would be just as confused if it was vice versa and I was interviewing you about your art. So
yeah, well, yes, like
which could happen. So
well, I'm going to while I dig around in these, I want to just throw a few questions at you. One thing that's curious for me, and it's probably might be obvious to some people, but maybe not, and I think it's interesting nonetheless. How does it differ? You spent 10 years pretty much touring, virtually nonstop. I don't know if that's too much of an exaggeration. How different is it spending 2 months in a van with 4 men in comparison to 4 women, or 5 women, 6 women?
That's a good question. It can be very different. Actually, the only girls I toured with in a van was for 3 weeks with Dum Dum Girls.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, but the bus helps. You have more space. But guys in the van, I mean, the van is different in a way that you can stop whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that I definitely missed when you get to a bus. It's like you can't stop whenever you want. Which I like to stop and take pictures. But then when you're on the bus, it's a lot more complicated. And then you have the driver and you have driving hours and all that. But obviously the first ladies that come to mind is Warpaint. And traveling with them is like family. You know, we're all kind of on the same page. And there's different type of bond with them than with a bunch of men.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them are so different. Oh, it's so cute to see them up there. Each one of them is so different, and I have a different relationship with each one of them. Jenny was the bass player, was the first one I met when I moved to LA in 2006. She actually lived in that house that I lived in for a couple months, and that's how we met.
Now, that wasn't that big. Was it a big white place with the columns in Echo Park, or was that somebody else's?
No, that was someone else's house.
Okay.
This one was actually called, it had a nickname in LA called Death Camp.
Oh.
It was 4 guys from North Carolina.
Okay.
And Jenny knew them. She was friends with them. Actually, one of them, Dallas, is the father of her sister's child.
Okay.
So that was the connection there. So she lived there for 2 months, and that's how we met. And then it wasn't until 2010 that we were friends still through that period. But then she said, "Hey, my band's going on tour with XX. Do you want to come with us?" And that was the end of that.
I love this photo of this. Like, this looks like a Japanese press conference or something, I guess.
It's actually in Jakarta.
Oh, Indonesia. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they'll do the press junkets there, and it's so well organized, and everyone is so sweet. We have our own security when we go there. Wow. I remember I always like to go to the tallest building, the tallest view, and take a picture. And I tried to go into an Uber, I think, by myself, and they sent a security guard with me. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
Like the 2 of us going to the tallest point together, and it was funny. But yeah, these are from my book.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to put the cart before the horse and start talking about that. But,
I love this one because it's like they stand out no matter where we are. I forgot. I want to say this is the Manila, Philippines airport.
Okay. Palm trees there in the background. That's seems like a good.
Yeah, that was 2014 after they had their 14th anniversary.
Whose 14th anniversary?
The band's.
Warpaint?
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
I want to say it's 14th. Yeah, that was the 14th.
What? That band's been around for 14 years?
Maybe it was their 10th.
Goodness.
But it's on February 14th, so it's confusing. I know it's 2014.
Okay. Oops, let me turn this banner off. It's getting crowded down there. Pardon me here. Let me just turn that back on. Yep. Sorry, I need an engineer for the program.
No, it's great. This is your 3rd episode too, so.
It is.
You're killing it.
I need a third arm or an engineer. So let's just back up a little bit. How did you actually? Where did the impetus to begin touring with bands come from? I mean, it's one thing to go to a show and take a bunch of photos and get to go home and call it a night and go back to your regular life. And to get in a van and go on tour indefinitely is a whole other thing. And most people get a taste of that, and even if they love it, they tend to kind of get enough of it after a while. But some people keep on keeping on, and you're one of them. And at least so far, right? And
yeah, I think. Well, it started in Seattle. Just photographing all these bands and hearing all these war stories from the road, and I was just so curious. And you can't live in Seattle and not be friends with musicians.
Right.
So I started, asking, hey, can I go on tour with you and take photos? And so, you have to earn your seat in the van. So I would sell merch, which I hated. So the Blood Brothers, I went out with them. And These Arms Are Snakes. And then the Blood Brothers were going to Europe, and I had never been. And I asked them, hey, if I buy my flight out there, can I jump on the bus for a few weeks? And that was kind of the end of it. Like, I flew into Copenhagen, and just being able to photograph these bands behind the scenes, or like we took, a bicycle ride around Prague. Like, who else is going to have photos of the Blood Brothers on bicycles in Prague,
Good point.
So it's just the access, and you all end up being like family. And so when you get home from tour, even though you've spent way too much time together in close quarters, they're the first people I call. Like, hey, what are you doing? We haven't seen each other in 2 hours, So I think it's just being able to, the trust and the relationship I started having with these bands with my camera, and even if it was a moment where they're not having a good time, but it ends up being a beautiful image, I still take it, and they're still okay with me taking it. And that is it was so much better than meeting up with a band after sound check and putting them up against the wall and making a small talk, So yeah, I just started touring, and then because I hate merch, and I kind of.
What is it about that? Is it I mean, it's working retail, right? I guess in every sense. But
working merch with the Blood Brothers takes a certain person. They do really well with merch. Okay. So you're basically, you go in, you count in with someone from the venue, and then you're stuck behind the table pretty much all night. And how am I supposed to take photos of the show? So I'd sit there and watch this incredible show and not be able to go shoot it. Okay. And then you have to count out.
Right.
And you're the last person that's done.
Okay.
So, and I'm really good at math, and I'm a slight bit of a control freak. So, and tour managing to a certain level, there's a certain level of band. Tour manager is the only person they have to take with them everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Or they want to take with them everywhere. Like, that's why. Like, I went with the Locust everywhere. It's like we would get a European merch person when we were in Europe, and all that. But I was the consistent. And you're always with the band, so then I always have my camera on them. So
I don't want to ask you to choose favorites, and I'm sure that's hard to do anyway. But do you have some favorite experiences or some favorite comrades amongst your various groups that you've traveled with? I mean,
you know that traveling with the Locust, Joey's like my best friend. So him and Laura are two of my closest friends. So that came from that. Warpaint, I'll always have a special place for them. They know me better, and vice versa. They know me better than most people do, and I know them, And then Refused are my Swedish family that I don't get to see as often as I would like. And they were the band, the last tour I did this year, back in February. Because of this guy, Dennis, who's when I started touring with them.
And when did you meet them?
2012, I did this random tour with the Bloody Beetroots, an Italian band.
Okay.
And they did, like, they're basically a DJ duo turned live band kind of thing. They had done some mix-ups of Refused songs, so they had Dennis out with them for a couple weeks, or maybe like just a week as the guest vocalist. And so the singer of the band was like, "Hey, Dennis is going to be with us. He's vegan. He buys records. Can you just, make sure he's happy?" And I'm also vegan and I love records, so it was no problem going to eat tons of food and go record shopping every day. That wasn't so bad. And then, that was 2010 actually. And then 2012, I got a phone call from a Swedish guy saying that Dennis's side project was going to tour in 2012, and would I want to be a part of it? And I didn't know what band he was talking about. They hadn't announced anything. I was like, "Yeah, Dennis is great. I'm into it. Tell me more about it." And they're like, "Well, actually, it's Refused."
Oh, okay.
So what turned into like supposed to be 3 months of touring ended up being 9.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Yeah, they came back in a big way, I guess. I remember seeing them at Coachella.
Yeah, the second main stage, and that was their second show in the U.S.
Wow.
And before that, they were used to playing to like 50 people.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I knew, like, Pomona at the Glass House was their first show that year. And it was just like the excitement. And then we had the Kabuki to do, it was exciting. That was an incredible year.
Have you been to that town in Sweden that they're from?
Yeah, Umeå. They actually, most of them.
Yeah.
The end of 2012, Swedes love Christmas. They flew me out to be in Sweden with them around that time. So I flew into Stockholm where their drummer was living, and then we went up to Umeå. It was great though, because here I am like traveling the world with these guys, and then you see the size of their airport in Umeå. There's one luggage belt.
Yeah, it's a tiny. It feels like Boulder, Colorado, or something. It's very almost quaint.
That's where you've been, haven't you?
Yeah, I went there with the Locust.
Right.
And stayed with Dennis, as a matter of fact. And I was. It was remarkable how humble and normal everything was, and
yeah,
you know what I mean. That was back before things got wild, I was like 2002 or something. But incredible to see it come to go the places it's been and get as huge as it has. It's wild. It's really incredible.
Yeah, he's still just as humble after all the craziness.
What about Modest Mouse? They must be a very colorful bunch of characters to be in a bus or van with, I would think.
Yes, actually. I met Isaac and Jeremiah, the singer and drummer, back in like 2000 when I lived in Seattle.
Okay.
As a photographer. Like, I photographed Modest Mouse for Rolling Stone, and just hit it off with them. And so I think it was 2018 when Jeremiah reached out, said they were looking for a tour manager. They're so, there's Jeremiah. It's his fault that I'm with them. Yeah, they're so fun to watch. I mean, there's 8 musicians on stage, and there's stand-up bass, there's trumpet, there's violin, there's a drummer, a percussionist, and a drum percussionist. Like,
wow,
it's fun, and it never gets boring. And I just love them. And I was able to, when things got weird in the world, in March, these guys ended up coming to LA. I think it was in July. And they were really the first people I spent time with.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, I really enjoy creative bantering with Isaac.
I wonder, were you? Did you see the Ugly Casanova and Mars Volta show in Seattle early on? Probably. So that would have been the first show that you and I would have both been at together. We didn't know each other.
No. That was at the off ramp, or the, I'm trying to remember, Mars Volta, when they played the small.
Might have been the showbox, perhaps.
There was even a smaller one. I think it was the off ramp, but I don't think Ugly Casanova was that part. But I remember And John Theodore was in the band.
Yep.
Yeah, small. I forget what year that was because I met Omar in '99.
That would have been 2000 and the end of 2001, I think. It was before they even had an EP out, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I think so. But funny to think about. Funny to think about being in the same place.
Yeah.
If you could photograph any band, living or dead,
Oh, geez.
anywhere in the world, who and where?
Alive or dead, and where? Well, I immediately come to people that are still living. It's
Okay.
like I had like,
Keep it with the realm of possibility.
A different era, you know. Like I thought my immediate was Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, and Tom Waits. Tom likes to play with the photographers, I think. I would have loved to photograph Bowie.
Sure. Yeah.
Somewhere completely random, something that wouldn't necessarily fit, like maybe in the jungle or something, you know. I've met quite a few people that used to work with him, and they have got nothing but good things to say. But there's never going to be another Bowie, and I would have loved to have photographed him.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of being in his vicinity once at a concert with 9 Inch Nails that I was a runner for, and I didn't get to talk to him or anything, but you could just tell he was a class act. You know what I mean? He was like a gentleman, and everybody was. It was just like being in the presence of royalty or something, you know. Even like 9 Inch Nails were kind of groveling at his feet.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Incredible. Wow. I guess I'm not surprised to hear you say that. Actually, I think that would be a remarkable thing to see if that would ever be possible.
I know. I would have loved that. Yeah. I mean, you can tell how much people had respect for him, for keeping quiet and all that. You know.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit more about you've been. Is it your mom who lives up in Montana?
She lives in Kalispell. Yeah, and she
that reminds me, we've got a photo of it, and we have a lot of non-banned photos of yours. Let's take a look at some of those here while we're hearing about that. This is Kalispell.
Yeah, that's actually close to where she lives.
Beautiful.
The fog just kind of, when the fog sets in, it just hangs there for a long time. So at first I started driving frantically, afraid that I would miss it. But then once you see one fog, you realize that it kind of hangs out for a while. So you're able to just kind of drive around. But then you're in North. Oh, that's that.
Sorry, I know I'm bouncing all of that. This is no longer Montana. I'm sorry.
That's the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah.
Okay, probably not too far from where you are right now.
Yeah, right. I know. This is oddly, I've been in Utah quite often, randomly. I took a road trip in October.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stand being in LA anymore, and just had to, I don't know, just go into nature.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what it was going to be like, and I don't like camping at all. And I rented a camper van, and I was like, well, here I go. And it ended up being such an incredible experience. That's in Sedona.
I got to tell you, I think your self-portraits are some of my favorite photos of yourself.
Why, thank you. You know, it's funny because I hate having my photo taken unless I'm taking it.
This is.
I don't think I'd be the only photographer to say that, but that one I'm not really good with heights either. So, and I was alone.
Okay. Wow. So
that could have gone one way or another, but I was very careful.
Remarkable. You posted this on your social media, and I just thought it was stunning.
Yeah, I was the only one to see, because you know the rangers have kind of hidden the trail that leads to that, and I think it's because everyone's trying to take this photo.
I see. Okay.
So I didn't find it the first day I was there, and so the second day I actually found it, and I went in hiking at night, which is early in the morning before the sun comes up. My new favorite thing to do. And I had met another hiker, which I guess I am now. This woman the day before, and I ended up running into her the night before. And she's like, oh, this is why you can't find it. And she told me, like, the rangers, they made a pile of trees over here, and then keep going and see the pile of branches and turn left. So I was doing that with my headlamp.
Wow.
And found it, and I was the only one that watched the sun come up there.
Wow.
It's called the Birthing Cave.
The Birthing Cave. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there it's just a great view? Are there petroglyphs or something? Is that why people are trying to get there, or they're just there for the
It's a great view, but I think throughout the years, women would go there to try and be fertile. I was like, this is the birthing cave for a new life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was on my way back to the end of my trip.
Okay. There was a few others here that I think that really jumped out to me. This is a really funny one. I didn't. This one takes a moment. This is in Poland.
In Denmark.
Oh, in Denmark. Okay.
But I love it, yeah, because someone's bed is coming out the window, and it's just.
And then you're like, it was like all kind of broken, and it's sort of like to our American sensibilities, everything about this is so picturesque.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at it a little closer, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's actually kind of a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, no, I love it because, I started, one of my favorite things to do aside from going to high places is getting up really early in the morning and walking around and taking photos. And so I schedule a bus call when we leave every night in order to give me the freedom to do that.
That's so cool. Do the bands know that? Or do they have anybody ever had a problem with that?
No, because it still gives them time to hang out. It's not like I make everyone leave at midnight or anything. It's like we're going to leave at 3 a.m. instead of 6. No one needs to be up till 6 anyway.
Right. That's so great.
Yeah.
There is an artistic mission side sort of subplot to the tour.
Definitely handy being the one that makes those calls.
I think this might be this might be from the Warpaint book as well.
Yeah, that's Hong Kong.
This is Hong Kong?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's very dystopian feeling.
Hong Kong it's weird because it's like really dense with these buildings, but surrounded by such beautiful mountains. See, yeah. But they put the buildings in almost inside the mountains. It's really is one of my favorite cities in Asia.
I think it's so aesthetically pleasing. I've never been there, but I would love to go. I think looks like it looks futuristic. It's like a Blade Runner kind of world,
Definitely. You definitely feel very small when you're there. Oh, Osaka. I was in the car by myself, and these are like teenage or early 20s boys in front of me, and this is one of the only times where they weren't trying to flirt with me. And it was the slowest Ferris wheel ever. So I had plenty of time to take photos, but it was on top of a shopping mall.
I think Ferris wheels are really popular in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And I think even in Osaka, I remember when I was in Osaka with the Locust at the drive-in, they played at a place called Bayside Jenny. That was the name of the venue. And it was right on the water, right next to this massive Ferris wheel. It was like a park, like a Coney Island kind of complex or something with this like big concert venue in it.
Where was it?
In Osaka. In
Osaka. Okay.
Yeah. Couldn't tell you anything more than that. I don't know. But Bayside Jenny. I just think I always loved the name. I just thought it was, so. And I
bet even though it's named that, everyone showed up in suits, right?
Well, it was at the drive-in show, so there was a ton of it was at peak at the drive-in, so there was thousands of kids there, all wearing the same T-shirt.
See, with the Locust, I remember that was the first time I went to Japan, and I remember, I forgot what city we were in, but you had to take an elevator to get up to the venue.
Oh, that's
the elevator was kept opening, and it was all men in suits because it was after work. It was the weirdest thing.
I wonder if it's a place there's definitely a place in Nagoya that I've been to that they played, Locust played there on one of those tours. Where the same thing was happening, where we kept on, we were thinking we were going to the club and the doors would open and we'd be in the ladies department or like housewares or something. It was amazing. And so confusing, like everything, like so many things are there in the best way possible.
Omar's actually, he was the one that got me first really curious about Japan.
Who?
Omar.
Oh, okay, Omar Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah, because he's photographer and filmmaker himself, and he was telling me all these stories about camera stores in Tokyo.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not like they have one version of a 1983 Nikon or whatever. They have multiple. It's just this wall of cameras. Yeah. So I was like, I need to go to Japan. All their stuff's cooler.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, then that same rule applies to any other interest you might have. Like,
just anything, yeah.
You're into, hollow body guitars from the 1950s. Oh yeah, there's a 6-story department store devoted just to those, or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's just an amazing place. I love it for that. It's like a consumer's paradise.
Absolutely, and I finally the last time I was there was with MGMT.
Oh, okay.
In July of 2019, and I remember I decided to stay longer, and I was going to book a car because that's what I like to do, like take road trips wherever I am. But Japan was the first time I got denied, and they said you need an international driver's license.
That is amazing and not at all surprising because the rules are not made to be bent there at all. That's
just in the shadows where they can't see.
Wow, that blows my. Okay, that's because I've done a lot of driving internationally, and I've always about the international driver's license. Never had to provide one or get one. Okay, Japan of all places.
And it would have cost me $25 to get in Los Angeles.
Oh, and
I couldn't get it there. I could have just gone into the DMV and got it because I wanted to try and see some more of the countryside. So
sure. Oh, that is so interesting and probably really frustrating at the time. Although
absolutely frustrating. I was definitely pouting. I was in Kyoto I was in Osaka, and I took the bullet train to Kyoto to try and nurse the wounds. But
Zara's in Centauri whiskey.
Right.
That sounds really frustrating. I can imagine.
It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was learned.
So what's next for you? I mean, COVID certainly has it impacted how much traveling you've been doing? I imagine this is probably the slowest year you've had in a while, right?
Yes, it definitely. Without pointing out the obvious, it was hard. I was on tour with Refused, which actually ended in Los Angeles the night before they shut down concerts, over 500 people.
Wow.
So we just missed it.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
And then I was supposed to go with Alanis Morissette through New Zealand, Australia, and Japan.
Wow.
And that was the end of March, April. I was just going to be covering for her regular tour manager, but just keeping my fingers crossed, and that basically fell through, and Modest Mouse dates fell through, and so it was so hard. My whole career was my current career was gone. Mm-hmm. And then just being in Los Angeles, but I'm very grateful to have photography. So it did actually, for about 5 months through this whole COVID thing, I didn't even pick up my camera. I was so bummed. I was so didn't know what to do, but I've been taking countless workshops, webinars, just relearning different aspects of photography and different markets and different ways to make money.
Okay. And you've also been, as I understand it, you've mentioned to me recently that you've been teaching photography as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it's I did this, actually one of the guys in Modest Mouse, Russell, his girlfriend is a camp counselor for this organization called Girls Rock Santa Barbara.
Okay.
So it's basically teenage girls that normally they would be in a physical camp outside of Santa Barbara, and one group plays the music, one paints, one does photography, but she asked me to speak to her group, which are about music labels. So I was a guest speaker, and then after that, I enjoyed it so much talking to younger girls that I started looking for local places I could volunteer.
When you say labels, you mean it was about record label, like business of putting out record of music?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I told them my experience as a photographer and my experience as a tour manager, and as a merch seller. So there's 3 different angles to go there. So I just started looking for Los Angeles places, and I found 2 organizations. One, I'm a mentor for 7th grade girls, and that's really enjoyable. It's Zoom, and they'll usually have their cameras off, but you can still get them to talk. So that's been enjoyable. And then the photography course is I reached out to this organization called Create Now.
Okay.
And what they do is they work with shelters in Los Angeles with teenage girls. They're either seeking asylum in our country, or they're on probation, or they're trafficked somehow. So I was like, well, how can I help? Mentor, guest speaker. And so she decided, like, well, let's try to teach them photography. So we got sent them cameras.
Okay. They're using cameras, not their phones.
Cameras, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all Canon point and shoots, but then they have one SLR there that once we get more techie. And then they'll be getting iPads next week. So I'm going to teach them some posts. But it's a lot harder than I thought, not having the physical contact, not to be able to, show them the camera and teach them. I have to teach them over a screen.
Is it one-on-one or is it a group?
It's a group.
Okay.
The one that I'm teaching, there's 4 different houses. And because of COVID, they're not allowed to intermingle. So there's 4 different screens.
Wow.
But just not being able to physically show them a camera or, show them light, bring flash, and one thing that we're all struggling is fatigue through screens.
Yeah.
So they have to go to online courses, online classes, and then I'm like another screen they have to look at. So it's kind of hard to keep attention, but when they got the cameras, that was exciting because they just started running around the houses taking pictures. So
yeah, that's amazing.
I think they completely stopped listening to me at that point.
You mentioned that you're a mentor. Are these photography kids or are we talking about kids?
Yeah, they're 7th graders, girls, and they're quote unquote in marginalized communities in LA.
Okay.
So it's through the school year. Just once a month. We're doing it twice a month this month because of Christmas, but it's basically just being there, being another adult that they can speak to. We had a call after Thanksgiving, and it was really felt good to like ask what they did for Thanksgiving, and each one of them, you can tell they're loved by their families, and that made me feel good because I was afraid that we'd get some horror stories and how can I help, but so for whatever one reason or not, they want another adult to be able to speak to. So I've got them the whole school year, so until June, I think.
How awesome! That must be so interesting, I guess. I mean, at the very least, it must be really rewarding too. It must be a whole spectrum of things, I guess.
I think it's like once I did that Girls Rock thing, it's kind of, I don't know what it's like to grow up right now, especially with your phone and social media and less accountability for bullies. And, so one thing I try and stress is that whatever makes you different and what you get picked on is what you should embrace and what's going to set you apart from everyone. But it must be really hard. I mean, to always be on a screen, and then, some parents have their kids watch TV all the time. And so I just wanted to try and be another human, I guess. Yeah. It feels good. It feels really good. And I hope that we're all helping them somehow.
And that's currently all remote as well.
Mm.
Okay.
Apparently, they would have us all meet up at UCLA. And who knows? Maybe I'll be able to actually meet them in person at some point, but not right now. So
that sounds really. I can imagine you being really good at that. I feel like you're very calm and very warm person, and I mean, it sounds like you said, these kids are from decent situations anyway, but I could see how they might feel might find it easy to open up to you or whatever they might do.
I hope so. Thank you. I think, it's also working in the music industry. As a photographer or a tour manager, it's such a man's world, so that's why I want to be there for the girls,
Sure. Yeah.
So
I mean, it is. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
right.
It's interesting. I mean, certainly not surprising to hear you say that, because, maybe it's in some sense still disappointing, of course, that is a that is the reality of it. It is a man's. So
yeah,
there has been a man's world, but I think certainly you're not alone amongst the sort of trend towards women taking the reins and doing the kind of work that you do. I think the last, not that I've been on the road that much myself, but I feel like women definitely have more of a presence in these behind the scenes roles than I remember them having maybe 25 years ago, which I think is an awesome trend, and certainly definitely more women in the making. The artists themselves are women so much more now. That feels, to me at least, so much more so much less of a novelty, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's, I hope there's a lot more progression. I have felt that there is. I mean, there's still people that are going to try and make things harder for you, but it's you have to just smile and let it roll off your back until it ends up being an issue. So I'm hoping the more women that do it. I personally think women make better tour managers. We're just, we can also be the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
We're a little more, we tend to be a little bit more compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
understanding. I actually, some of my close friends are men who are tour managers, so I can't really.
Mine as well, but I think you have a point, and I think a woman's touch in any kind of management role has a kind of finesse to it that certainly when I've been a tour manager here and there, like I don't have, like I'm not cut from that cloth. Let's put it that way. Like the finesse is a skill and an art, and also, frankly, the willingness to kind of allow people their indulgences and be rock stars, if you will. You know what I mean? Like that to me has always been something that was. I've always enjoyed working with people. Do you understand what I mean? Like, and that was my whole thing with the record label too. Is like I don't really want to be your boss or your meal ticket or your paycheck. I want to be your collaborator, and that's why for me tour managing was always, there was kind of a master servant kind of aspect to it, and when they were your friends, it was just difficult. And I also am not very organized and don't have the finesse that we were talking about. Definitely don't have the attention to detail that's required for this job, and so I left it to the pros and just.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it has to still be fun. I think Refused. One thing that I think is really cool with them, one of the many things, is that they try and make it. They try and always hire as many women on their crew as they can. It was hard to find a female guitar tech, backline tech for a while. They had an LD, Susanna. We've had women merch. They always made a point. And I remember, they would get pigeonholed with like metal bands and hardcore bands and touring with them through parts of Europe. I remember there was a festival, and then back in the artist compound, me and Susanna, the LD, they didn't have a women's bathroom.
Wow.
It was all just unisex and, just, so she would stand outside or I would stand outside. And it was just so messed up, the fact that they didn't have any women's bathrooms. And then I remember, which I won't say what festival it was, but there was a festival and I think there was only maybe 2 female artists playing.
Wow.
And the promoter really wanted to meet Dennis. So as they're about to go on, the promoter asked if he can meet Dennis, and Dennis was fine with it. So he's about to go on stage, and I remember I'm standing there, and the promoter who paid quite a bit of money, standing there, and Dennis looks at him and he said, "You have 300 bands playing, and you only have 2 women on stage. I'm going to say something about that. I hope you're okay with that." And then he walked on stage, and it was so great.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
Yeah. So hopefully more and more people, like there's bands, big bands that have female tour managers. Like I know Tool has a tour manager that's a woman, and so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that I know in management roles are women, and I think that I don't know. I mean, without stereotyping, I think that the meticulousness of the job and the I don't know, just the minutia of it is just as a man, I could say it's certainly handled far more elegantly with women involved.
I think it's also a cleaner bus.
Yeah. Yes, there's some standards.
Yeah, they on their best behavior, so to speak. MGMT's got the cleanest bus ever. Everyone's just a little bit more on their best behavior when there's a woman around, which is nice.
Before we start to wind things down, let's talk a little bit about your book that's available, and then the book that you, I think, is coming out. This is the book that was published a couple of years ago, and I believe in England. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 2017. It was published by Setanta Books. A wonderful guy, Keith, runs that publishing. And he's got such a love of music. Like he collects records, he collects books. I believe it's like 180 pages. Beautiful collaboration with the girls of my time touring with them. And it was really important to Keith, me, and the band that it had music in it. So there's a 7-inch.
Cool. It comes with a record.
Yeah.
Wow.
A split. It's got 2 songs on it. Now it's the only live tracks they'd ever released.
Okay.
Originally, I had a show at the Opera House in Sydney, recorded back in 2017. We were on deadline. We knew they had the equipment, so we recorded that one. But the drummer's from Australia, and everyone was nervous, and it was her birthday. So the recording was super clean.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really the Warpaint show that I have known, and so we recorded a show in Belgium shortly after that, and we used that one. And then the drummer, Stella, and our sound engineer, Hanford, mixed the record in a hotel room.
Oh, wow. That's
So
incredible.
we picked an old song and a new song. And then, that one came out in 2017, and I'm super proud of it.
Now, is that book distributed in the United States, or
It's not.
you have to order it online?
Yes.
Okay.
But the girls signed a bunch of copies, and then he also has prints from the book.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, setantabooks.com, I think, is the website for that.
.ko and then co.uk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I believe you have this book in the works. Is that right?
That's actually I shouldn't say just. That is something I put together during this COVID time.
Oh, okay.
Interstate, it's basically means, something, what's on your mind, and / state of being.
I like it.
So what I wanted to do is put this book out, self-published, It's just 96 pages, and it's only photos of cities. I think there's only a handful of portraits in there, but basically I sent it to people I've worked with in the past, and then friends as well, along with postcards that I made. And it was basically like,
I have a photo of some of those here. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to, it's called mind travel, I call it. I wanted people to be able to kind of travel when they're stuck at home. And so the book has this really nice foreword about travel, and then I sent it with a letter. And I was asking everyone to use the postcards to send to their loved ones. And that was that. And so now I'm working on 2 books. There's another band book, and then more landscape photos from right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can we expect those?
Hopefully by summer.
Okay.
I have other road trips planned because I can't go anywhere.
Sure.
Along with everyone else. And actually, I just booked a van for mid-January to end of February.
A van?
A van, again.
What's your van of choice?
Well, I've been using it's an Australian company, actually, and they have vans in LA. It's Travelers Auto Barn. They were really sweet. But my routing, I'm going along the south, like through Texas and New Mexico, all the way to like Alabama, I think it is. But when I come back up, I'm going to be coming back through Arkansas.
All right. Well, you have to come here.
Yes.
Have you been?
I'm going to check out the national park there.
Yeah, you sure are. That's going to be great.
February there'll be snow, right, or something?
Probably not. We think
Okay.
we get about one day a year of that, and even then, it's not snow by the Montana or Colorado standards. It's much more watery variety down here, but yeah, it gets cold, and it's a wet coldness and humid coldness.
Wow. It sounds like fun. Yeah, it's because you lived in California for so long and then lived in Nevada. We get cold really easily.
Sure.
And now that I've been in Montana for so many weeks, my version of what cold is completely skewed. Like if it's 38 outside and the sun's out, I'm like, I'm fine.
You're going to be wearing a t-shirt all winter long.
Yeah.
So funny. There's a couple things I wanted to ask you before we finish tonight, and just kind of I don't know, maybe things you've been asked before, but seem interesting to me nonetheless. So humor me, if you will. As far as anybody young starting out in photography or tour managing, for that matter, what would your advice be?
Well, with photography, I started by photographing my friends. Trial and error, experimenting with light, experimenting with mirrors or glass or leaves, plant, like just start shooting. And I think, without picking up my camera for months, that really sucked during this COVID time. And then now that I'm in nature, I'm so inspired again. So as a photographer, just start shooting like I did in when I was a kid. Always had my camera with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you're going to learn. And learn from people that, it's okay to reach out to photographers you look up to. A mentorship, if you will. Photographers that you'd be surprised. I've reached out to photographers these days that I love their work, and now we're corresponding.
Oh, cool.
I think that's the best way to learn is through people that have the career that you're looking at or that you've always enjoyed their work, especially right now when people are sitting at their computers or, not able to hang out with friends or, and as a tour manager, kind of a dire strait to pick now, but for me, it was just, I started going in my friends' vans and kind of just paid attention to how things worked. Back in the van days, you bring your sleeping bag and you have your book of maps and,
Sure.
You find out where all the Whole Foods are in the US and then hopefully you get a passport real soon after that. But Yeah, just start jumping in vans, and then maybe the two will go together where you're bringing your camera too.
Mm-hmm.
But really just experiencing it. There's no other way to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how someone would start a record label.
Don't go there.
That's on another show.
What would Robin of 2020, 2021 have to say to that Robin who moved from Phoenix to Seattle, if she could?
Up to this year, or just from?
Well, with COVID, I mean, if COVID is a factor in that, certainly you can, yeah. But I mean, that fledgling kid who was taking photos in basements, who probably moved up there not knowing how they were gonna make ends meet, and
I think just don't question the process. I think people make choices, and hindsight it's a waste of time. It's like when I stopped shooting, I didn't stop shooting. People stopped calling when I was never home to shoot. So I kind of started losing my work as I toured so much. So then I started kind of feeling bad that I was touring all the time and not being able to work for these labels that were calling me. I wasn't home. So I just lost work. But now that's putting me in a position that I have that experience of touring that no one else has. So, and there was I took a lot of leaps back then in Seattle. I was so broke, eating ramen all the time, but I was so happy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, if something scares you, you're probably doing the right thing.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, it's like comfort. When I was a kid, I used to say that comfortable was a 4-letter word. And it's like, and don't question the process. I mean, this year is a prime example of that. You can't do anything, you can't control anything. The best thing you can do is take care of yourself and be determined. And, if you know what you want, it's easier because you can make steps to get that every day. And just, and not be so, just take care of yourself. And not question the process, and you should be scared all the time because that means you're making progress. I always would get uncomfortable, like even being at home so long, I couldn't handle it anymore, and that's why I got the van. But so I would tell myself to just lean into the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like during COVID, it's been the hardest time of my life for a few reasons, but it's kind of through meditation and really just holding on to photography.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I'm doing what I want to do, the more you want to help people. So hopefully everyone comes out the other end like that. Because it's basically a level playing field at this point with careers. So I really hope that people I care about have used this time wisely, because it's not going to happen again. Not in our lifetime, maybe, hopefully not.
Yeah, I sure hope not. Yeah.
Just faith that change is the only thing that is certain. And I think with uncertainty is also, what comes with uncertainty is an absolute awareness. I'm aware of every single minute going by because you don't know what's going to happen next. And also it's kind of, the people have reached out to me to make sure I'm doing okay, and that I'll always remember that, and vice versa,
That's awesome.
Like you doing this is great,
Well, in lieu of being able to do what we usually do here in this town, which is events and bringing, interesting people to town, this seemed like the next best way of doing that in some capacity. So, thank you, and I'm grateful to you for being part of this.
Oh, of course. These things are what's helped me get through. So,
good.
Thank you for having me on.
It's funny. 20 years ago, everybody was a DJ. Now we're a podcast host, or it's not a podcast, but you see my point. It's like these things seem to go in
I think it's helped people so much. I mean, even when bands were figuring out how to have virtual, like you could watch one of your favorite artists playing an acoustic guitar in their bathrobe, you know, people find a way to stay connected, and that's so important.
Yeah. So you're in Utah now for, at least for tonight. You're gonna be there for a few days, you think, shooting pictures?
No, I'm actually in a hurry to get back to Los Angeles. I have to be back by Monday, I think it is. But it's funny because I have the drives, like I have Zoom calls tomorrow. The Zoom, all of a sudden everything's happening at once, where I have a certain amount of time to drive during the day, and then I have to be at a hotel. So, and I have my dog with me, so at least she's chill.
Yeah.
I wish I could spend more time in Utah, but I was trying to spend as much time with my mom as I could.
Sure. Yeah, I only asked because it's so. It's a photographer's kind of a dream, right?
I know.
Bryce Canyon, obviously, before, and probably other places.
Well, I spent some time here in October, but I completely planned wrong. I tried to get to 2 national parks that were 4 hours apart in the same day.
Oh yeah, no, that happened,
right? So maybe next time.
Maybe next time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Robin, this has really been a pleasure. It's been awesome speaking with you, and I hope it's not another however many years before we have a chance to talk again. But thank you so much for your time and letting us have a little bit of an insight into what makes you tick and how you've gotten where you are. And hope you enjoy the rest of your travels and have safe travels back across the western part of the U.S. to L.A. And good luck with all this stuff that you got going on, these projects. I'm excited to see these new books, and
I'll send you them. Well, thank you, Sonny. Thanks for having me on and for doing this. And maybe I will see you in February.
I would love, please.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled. I'm sure a lot of people here would love to meet you, and yeah, we'll make it special if you're able to do that. I promise.
That'd be great. Maybe we won't have to wear masks anymore.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Thank you, Sonny.
My pleasure, Robin. Thank you. And we'll speak again soon. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.